For those of us that live in northern regions where the landscape is dominated by permafrost ground ice and sensitive to changes going on throughout the world, we see the changes going on in our own backyards and in the north, and we are concerned what is the possible implications of climate warming on the stability of our ecosystems and the infrastructure that we depend on. Within this permafrost region, we have temperatures that range all the way from -12 mean annual temperature to +2, and we see that permafrost can degrade in these cold temperatures at -12 and still persist at 2. And what are the questions that responsible for this large range of responses? And we find out that ecology, ecosystems are a very important component of this, and the feedbacks from vegetation to soils to how it controls the hydrology of the ground, they're almost twice as large in effect as the anticipated effects of climate change in northern regions. So that greatly complicates our ability to predict how permafrost is going to respond to our climate warming. But through years of research, trying to take systematic approaches of looking at the various factors from climate to geomorphology to hydrology to ecosystems, we're starting to partition the relative effects of these various landscape components on how land responds. And we're finding that perhaps permafrost is going to be more resilient in some of our landscapes and persist longer than some of our initial concerns. And yet in other landscapes we already see permafrost degrading rapidly and causing big changes in habitat, into wildlife use, into subsistence use of the resources. So while we want to come out with a nice perfect red, green and yellow map of where the vulnerability of permafrost is most vulnerable, the answer always comes out to it depends. And it's a complicated interaction of a lot of factors, and it's not the answer that many of our policy leaders and scientific research wants to hear. We want clear-cut answers, but it's ecology and biology is messy, and it greatly complicates our ability to understand the fate of permafrost. Well, we get a lot of observations from people living in the villages to our transportation planners, and awareness has been growing in the last 20 years. We see it all around us, and now we're starting to face up to what are the solutions and the costs of these changes, and they're going to be enormous. We, as a society, really aren't prepared for the large costs and changes that are coming upon us in the next 50 to 100 years in permafrost-affected landscapes.